Good afternoon. Today I'm going to address the issue of sorting oneself out. I've had a number of subscribers who have sort of complained about the fact that they're having trouble sorting themselves out. And the first thing I want to say about that is that there are no rules. The rules can't help you. The way that you sort yourself out is by self-reflection. And so today, there's nothing wrong with requiring self-reflection. All of us are born as wild animals, and we have to learn how to be a human being and how to mature. This is one of the reasons why we're not even considered officially an adult until we're 21. And sometimes circumstances sort you out. For example, in the U.S. Marine Corps, the motto is the Marine Corps builds men. And the reason for that is that when you come into the Marine Corps, you often have very immature attitudes about the world. But after you've spent a few weeks with the drill instructors, you're pretty much sorted out. And with women, it's a little different. With women, their instructor is more often the circumstances of life. Women often get, during puberty, they get into trouble with their mothers, but once they become a mother, then they're sorted out, because then the archetype of mother takes over. And once you're a mother for life. And so there are no specific rules to sort yourself out. Hello, Samuel. Nice to see you today. But I thought you would enjoy hearing Dr. Jung trying to sort himself out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read today from this book, which is the Reader's Edition of the Red Book by C.G. Jung. And in this book, in the third section, there's a section on scrutinies. Now, what is happening in this passage that I'm going to read for you is that Dr. Jung, who was then, 39 years old, had an argument with himself, his own self, and keeping in mind that from a Jungian point of view, there are two centers in our psyche, the ego and the self. And so I will make a few minor changes here to try to help you see who is talking, whether it's the ego or the self. But mostly it's the self that's talking, and the self is whipping up Dr. Jung, the 39-year-old psychiatrist. And here's what he says. I'm on page 464 of the Red Book in the section called Scrutinies. And I'm right where footnote 6 comes in, so this passage is dated April 20th, 1914. This is the same day that Dr. Jung resigned as president of the International Psychoanalytic Association. Okay, so this is an active imagination between Dr. Jung's self and his ego, and the self is speaking. Did you feel dejected today, inferior, debased? Shall I tell you why? Your inordinate ambition is boundless. Your grounds are not focused on the good of the matter, but on your vanity. You do not work for humanity, but for your self-interest. You do not strive for the completion of the thing, but for the general recognition and safeguarding of your own advantage. I want to honor you with a prickly crown of iron. It has teeth inside that bore themselves into your flesh. And now we come to the vile swindle that you pursue with your cleverness. You speak skillfully and abuse your capability and discolor, tone down, strengthen, apportion light and shade, and loudly proclaim your honorableness and upright good faith. You exploit the good faith of others. You gloatingly catch them in your snares and speak of your benevolent superiority and the prize that you are for others. You play at modesty and do not mention your merit, in the certain hope that someone else will do it for you. You are disappointed and hurt if this doesn't happen. You preach hypocritical composure, but when it really matters, you are calm. No, you lie. You consume yourself in rage, and your tongue speaks cold daggers, and your dream of revenge. You are gloating and resentful. You begrudge the other the sunshine, since you would like to assign it to those whom you favor, because they favor you. You are envious of all well-being around you, and you impertinently assert the opposite. Inside yourself, you think unsparingly and coarsely only what always suits you, and with this you feel yourself above humanity and not in the least responsible. But you are responsible to humanity in everything that you think, feel, and do. Do not pretend there is a difference between thinking and doing. You rely only on your undeserved advantage, not to be compelled to say or do what you think and feel. Okay, I'll just stop that for a minute. So the self is being pretty tough on Dr. Jung's ego. So this is Dr. Jung's self, his God image, his greater personality, criticizing his ego self. And Sri Ram says, hello, Skip, what if placing too much emphasis on sorting oneself out and that leading to overthinking and overanalyzing is exactly what the problem that needs to be solved? Well, I think that you need to reflect on that. And Art says, I've gotten a lot out of the Red Book. Okay, so I'm going to get some more here. So I'm reading from Scrutinies, page 465 of the Reader's Edition of the Red Book. Again, the self is speaking. But you are shameless in everything where no one sees you. If another said to you, you would be mortally offended despite knowing that it is true. You want to reproach others for their failings so that they better themselves? Yes, confess. Have you bettered yourself? From where do you get the right to have opinions of others? What is your opinion about yourself? And what are the good grounds that support it? Your grounds are webs of lies covering a dirty corner. You judge others and charge them with what they should do. You do this because you have no order within yourself, because you are unclean. And now, how do you really think? It appears to me that you even think with men, regardless of their human dignity. You dare think by means of them and use them as figures on your stage, as if they were how you conceive them. Have you ever considered that you thus commit a shameful act of power? As bad as that for which you condemn others. namely, that they love their fellow men, as they claim, but in reality exploit them to their own ends. Your sin flourishes in seclusion, but it is no less great, remorseless, and coarse. What is concealed in you I will drag out into the light, shameless one. I will crush your superiority under my feet. Do not speak to me about your love. What you call love oozes with self-interest and desirousness. But you speak about it with great words, and the greater your words are, the more pathetic your so-called love is. Never speak to me of your love, but keep your mouth shut. It lies. I want you to speak about your shame, and that instead of speaking great words, you utter a discordant clamor before those whose respect you wanted to exact. You deserve mockery, not respect. I will burn out of you the contents of which you were proud, so that you will become empty like a poured-out vessel. You should be proud of nothing more than your emptiness and wretchedness. You should be a vessel of life, so kill your idols. Okay, now I'm going to reiterate. I'm reading the conversation between Dr. Jung's self, which is his greater personality, and his own ego. So it's the self talking to the ego. And the reason I'm reading it is it resonated with me in terms of some of my own reflections on my own self, and I thought some parts of it might also resonate with you. Freedom does not belong to you, but form, not power, but suffering and conceiving. You should make a virtue out of your self-contempt, which I will spread out before men like a carpet. They should walk over it with dirty feet, and you should see to it that you are dirtier than all the feet that step on you. If I tame you, beast, I give others the opportunity to tame their beasts. The taming begins with you, my I. By my I, he means his ego. The taming begins with you, my I, nowhere else. Not that you, stupid brother I, had been particularly wild. There are some who are wilder, but I must whip you until you endure the wildness of others. Then I can live with you. If someone does you wrong, I will torment you to death until you have forgiven the wrong suffered. Yet not just by paying lip service, but also in your heavy heart with its heinous sensitivity. Your sensitivity is your particular form of violence. Therefore, listen, brother, in my solitude. I have prepared every kind of torture for you, if it should ever occur to you again to be sensitive. You should feel inferior. You should be able to bear the fact that one calls your purity dirty, and that one desires your dirtiness, that one praises your wastefulness as miserliness, and your greed as a virtue. Fill your beaker with the bitter drink of subjugation, since you are not your soul. Your soul is with the fiery God who flamed up to the roof of the heavens. Should you still be sensitive? I notice you are forging secret plans for revenge, plotting deceitful tricks. But you are an idiot. You cannot revenge on fate. Childish one, you probably even want to lash the sea. Build better bridges instead. That is a better way to squander your wit. You want to be understood? That's all we needed. Understand yourself, and you will be sufficiently understood. You will have enough work. You will have quite enough work in hand with that. Mother's little dears want to be understood. Understand yourself. That is the best protection against sensitivity and satisfies your childish longing to be understood. I suppose you want to turn others into slaves of you, desirousness again. I'm sorry. I'll read that sentence again. I suppose you want to turn others into slaves of your desirousness again. But you know that I must live with you, and that I will no longer tolerate such plaintiveness. Okay, so now that was one part of Dr. Jung's self beating up on his ego, and I had skipped ahead because I wanted to put some of the more powerful parts of it up front in this video. But now I'll go back to the beginning of it. And so I'm reading from the Red Book by C.G. Jung, Liber Novus, the Reader's Edition, and I'm right at the beginning of scrutinies now. What I read just now was ways into the scrutinies, but this is the beginning. And again, this is an act of imagination between Dr. Jung in his self and his ego. Okay, so the first so this first I in this is Dr. Jung's ego speaking. I resist. I cannot accept this hollow nothing that I am. What am I? What is my I? I always presuppose my I. Now it stands before me and before my I. I speak now to you, my I. Okay, so in that sentence, I speak now to you, my I, that part is his self speaking to his ego. We are alone, and our being together threatens to become unbearably boring. We must do something, devise a pastime. For example, I could educate you. Let us begin with your main flaw, which strikes me first. You have no correct self-esteem. Have you no good qualities that you can be proud of? You believe that being capable is an art, but one can also learn such skills to some extent. Please do so. You find it difficult. Well, all beginnings are difficult. You find it difficult. Well, you find it difficult? Well, all beginnings are difficult. Soon you will be able to do better. Do you doubt this? This is of no use. You must be able to do it, or else I cannot live with you. Ever since the God has arisen and spreads himself in whichever fiery heavens, to do whatever he does, what exactly I do not know, we have depended upon one another. Therefore you must think about improving, or else our life together will become wretched. So pull yourself together and value yourself. Don't you want to? Pitiful creature. I will torment you a bit if you do not make an effort. What are you moaning about? Perhaps the whip will help. Now that gets under your skin, doesn't it? Take that and that. What does it taste of? Of blood, presumably. Of the Middle Ages in majorum Dei gloriam. Or do you want love, or what goes by that name? One can also teach love. If blows do not bear fruit. One can also teach love if blows do not bear fruit. So should I love you, press you tenderly to myself? I truly believe you are yawning. How now, you want to speak? But I won't let you. Otherwise, in the end, you will claim that you are my soul. But my soul is with the fireworm, with the son of the frog who has flown to the heavens above, to the upper sources. Do I know what he is doing there? But you are not my soul. You are my bare, empty nothing. I, this disagreeable being, whom one cannot even deny the right to consider itself worthless. One could despair over you. Your sensitivity and desirousness exceed any reasonable measure, and I should live with you, of all people. I must, since the strange misfortune occurred that gave me a son and took him away. I regret that I must speak such truths to you. Yes, you are laughably sensitive, self-righteous, unruly, mistrustful, pessimistic, cowardly, dishonest with yourself, venomous, vengeful. One can hardly speak about your childish pride, your craving for power, your desire for esteem, your laughable ambition, your thirst for fame without feeling sick. The play-acting and pomposity become you badly, and you abuse them to the best of your ability. Do you believe that it is a pleasure rather than a horror to live together with you? No, 3 times no, but I promise you that I will tighten the vice around you and slowly pull off your skin. I will give you the chance to be flayed. You of all people wanted to tell other people what to do. Come here, I will stitch a cloth of new skin onto you so that you can feel its effect. You want to complain about others and that one has done an injustice to you, not understood you, misinterpreted you, hurt your feelings, ignored you, not recognized you, falsely accused you, and what else? Do you see your vanity in this, your eternally ridiculous vanity? You complain that the torment has not yet come to an end. Let me tell you, it has only just begun. You have no patience and no seriousness. Only when it concerns your pleasure do you praise your patience. I will double the torment so that you learn patience. You find the pain unbearable, but there are other things that hurt even more, and you can inflict them on others with the greatest naivety and absolve yourself all unknowingly. But you will learn silence. For this I will pull out your tongue, and with which you have ridiculed, blasphemed, and even worse, joked. I will pin all your unjust, depraved words, one by one, to your body with needles, so that you can feel how evil words stab. Do you admit that you also derive pleasure from this torment? I will increase this pleasure until you vomit with joy, so that you know what taking pleasure in self-torment means. You wish against me? I am screwing the vice tighter. That's all. I am screwing the vice tighter. That's all. I will break your bones until there is no longer a trace of hardness there. For I want to get along with you. I must, damn you. You are my I, which I must carry around with me to the grave. Do you think that I want to have such foolishness around me all of my life? If you were not my I would have you torn to pieces long ago. But I am damned to haul you through a purgatory so that you too will become somewhat acceptable. You call on God for help? The dear old God has died, and it is good that way. Otherwise, he would have had pity on your repentant sinfulness and spared me the execution by granting mercy. You must know that neither a God of love nor a loving God has yet arisen, but instead a worm of fire crawled up, a magnificent, frightful entity that lets fire rain on the earth, producing lamentations. So cry to the God. He will burn you with fire for the forgiveness of your sins. Coil yourself and sweat blood. You have needed this cure for a long time. Yes, others always do wrong, and you are the innocent, the correct. You must defend your good right, and you have a good, loving God on your side, who always forgives sins with pity. Others must reach insight, not you, since you have a monopoly on all insight from the start and are always convinced that you are right. And so cry really loudly to your dear God. He will hear you and let fire fall on you. Have you not noticed that your God has become a fiery worm with a flat skull Have you not noticed that your God has become a fiery worm with a flat skull who crawls red hot on the earth? You want to be superior? How laughable. You were and are inferior. Who are you then? Scum that disgusts me. Are you perhaps somewhat powerless? I place you in a corner where you can remain lying until you come to your senses again. If you no longer feel anything, the procedure is of no use. After all, we must proceed skillfully. It really says a lot about you that one needs such barbaric means for your amendment. Your progress since the early Middle Ages appears to be minuscule. And then, so that's reading up to the point that I began with. So this is Dr. Jung's self whipping up on Dr. Jung's ego. It resonated somewhat with me, so I thought I would read it so that you would hear it, and then let me go on after the tongue lashing that started this video. Let me go on with the next little section. After I had spoken these and many more angry words to my eye, I noticed that I began to bear being alone with myself, but the touchiness still stirred in me frequently, and I had to lash myself just as often. And I did this until even the pleasure in self-torment faded. Then I heard a voice one night. It came from afar and was the voice of my soul. She spoke. How distant you are. I. Is that you, my soul? From which height and distance do you speak? Soul. I am above you. I am a world apart. I have become sun-like. I received the seeds of fire. Where are you? I can hardly find you in your mists. I am down in the murky earth, in the dark smoke that the fire left us, and my gaze does not reach you, but your voice sounds closer. Soul, I feel it. The heaviness of the earth penetrates me, damp, cold, and shrouds me. Gloomy memories of former pain overcome me. I do not lower yourself into the smoke and the darkness of the earth. I would like that which I am still working on to remain sun-like, Otherwise, I will lose the courage to live further down in the darkness of the earth. Let me just hear your voice. I will never want to see you in the flesh again. Say something. Take it from the depths from which fear perhaps flows to me. Soul, I cannot, since your creative source flows from there. You see my uncertainty. Soul, the uncertain way is the good way. Upon it lie possibilities. Be unwavering and create. Okay, so I'm going to stop at that point today, but the purpose was to give you a sense of how Dr. Jung was whipping up on himself from the point of view of his self toward his ego, toward his conscious mind. And so this has been an active imagination conversation between Dr. Jung's self and his ego, and then in this last little bit that I read, between his ego and his soul. And so I'll go back and look at your other comments here. Art says, I've gotten a lot out of the Red Book the past 4 years. I came out as a gay Christian. Now, who was my real friends are? And Thomas says, very courageous of you, Art. Art says, thanks, Tom. I get Master Force says, fantastic passage. Touched me as well, Scott. I'm glad it got your attention. So I'm going to stop the reading at that point, but I'll continue to discuss with you for a couple more minutes if you're still interested. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next event. Thomas says, parallels between dreams, memories, personality number 1 and personality number 2 mentioned early in the book jump out. Absolutely. That's exactly what Dr. Jung is talking about. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, which many laymen pick up early in their study of Dr. Jung because it was really meant for the layman, he talks about discovering at a very early age, around by 12 anyway, personality number 1 and personality number 2. And these are the personality of the self, which is the deepest archetype in the unconscious, and the personality of the ego, which is all consciousness in an individual. And the self is in control. And so here the self was giving Dr. Jung a strict lesson as a strict father, I think. And interestingly, this was done when Dr. Jung was 39 years old. So we all have to develop and individuate. And there are a couple of footnotes here that may be of interest. Okay, one footnote is, Jung later described the self-criticism depicted in this opening section as the confrontation with the shadow. In 1934, he wrote, whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first of all his own image. Whoever goes to himself risks a confrontation with himself. The mirror does not flatter. It faithfully shows whatever looks into it, namely the face we never show to the world because we cover it with the persona, the mask of the actor. But the mirror lies behind the mask and shows the true face. This confrontation is the first test of courage on the inner way, a test sufficient to frighten off most people, for the meeting with ourselves belongs to the more unpleasant things that can be avoided as long as one can project everything negative into the environment. But if we are able to see our own shadow and can hear and can bear knowing about it, then a small part of the problem has already been solved. We have at least brought up the personal unconscious. And that was from On the Archetypes of the Collective Unconscious, collected work 9, collected work volume 9I, paragraphs 43 and 44. So then Dr. Shamdasani says, this paragraph does not occur in Black Book 5. On April 30th, 1914, Jung resigned as a lecturer in the medical faculty of the University of Zurich. Okay. All right, so that portion of this act of imagination was written on April 20th, 1914. So before the commencement of World War I, the formal commencement anyway, and it was obvious that Dr. Jung was in a stew about what he should be doing. And he was 39 years old. He was a practicing psychiatrist. He had already written Psychology of the Unconscious, which later became Symbols of Transformation. And so Art says, is this just shadow work? And so Art, this is shadow from the deep self, right? From the deep unconscious. And so it's the, maybe it's the tough part of the shadow that's making you look at your own life and his own life. I mean, this was him criticizing himself. And so I guess it is just shadow work. Thomas says, of the self, or number 2, Jung says there, he is a typical figure, but he is perceived only by the very few. This does ring true. Most of us operate on the level of the ego. It's our default, yes. So most of us are going around thinking that whatever's in our consciousness is in control, and it's not. The so-called 2-million-year-old man is in control, but actually it's much older than 2 million years, as we know these days, because you and I are all the progeny of creatures who successfully reproduced all the way back to single-celled organisms some 3.5 billion years ago. So we have a grandfather and a grandmother that go back that far, and our ancestors then successfully reproduced every time from that time to this to create you. And anyway, my point about reading this was it resonated with me and some of the things in my own unconscious. And so I think if you go back and listen to the replay, you may find some things that resonate with you, and you say, oh yeah, that's shadow. So there we go. Anyway, okay, I'm going to wrap this up and do something else for a while and come back to you later perhaps. So thank you for visiting today, and I'll look forward to seeing you on another time. And on Monday at 8 p.m., I'm going to start talking about psychology and alchemy. And I have read into the channel the first 43 paragraphs of Psychology and Alchemy. So those are already read in, so if you want to listen to them to prepare for Monday night, you could do that. And so thank you for joining me today.